Hello, everyone and no one, and welcome to another Rotten Movie Reviews. Today we're finishing the Tremors series with Tremors Shrieker Island. But as always, with me is Tier Alexander. Tier, how you doing?
I'm saddened by this movie and I want to cry.
As well, we have with us Angela. Angela, how you doing?
It was a fond farewell.
And Will Forge finishing out the Tremors series strong. How you doing, Will?
Will has a sad.
Yeah,
Oh.
the 2020 Tremors movie. While I don't necessarily like it, I still actually think it's stronger than Bloodlines. And that mainly because of the cast. Like John Herder, I'm not the biggest fan of. I didn't hate him in Benchwarmers. I still cannot stand Napoleon Dynamite. I can do Blades of Glory like once every 5 to 10 years.
I don't like the other guy in that either.
I can do Blades of Glory once.
That's because one of the things I kind of noticed, Will Ferrell can act with the right director. Stranger Than Fiction, in my opinion, was really good. What's up, BG?
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with, and like I didn't hate him in the other guys, the biggest problem with Will Ferrell is it seems like every scene he's in, he treats like he's on an SNL skit.
Well, then you get to start on SNL.
Yes.
You always go back to your roots, apparently.
Yeah, well, every scene Will Ferrell's in, he's Will Ferrell. So you get the plus, you get the minus.
Oh, it's well, like I said, in Stranger Than Fiction, he's not Will Ferrell. But back to this whole movie. I mean, we obviously had Michael Gross, but then we had fucking Richard Blake playing the somewhat antagonist. That man is a scene stealer.
Yes.
He did great as a crazy rich dude who lives for the hunt.
Yeah, he plays a good psychopath.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he does.
And I do like how they actually brought in, Bert's love affair way back when, and, Travis's mom. That's Dr. Welker. But yes, this is definitely that. Well, they have talked about bringing the series back, and I guess saying that this is and like retconning this movie out.
Yeah, this movie needs to be
And
forgotten.
apparently, Michael Gross is on board, and he said he'll get back into shape if they want to do it.
And I'll be honest, this movie was not the peak of Tremors' glory.
No, it
If
had.
somebody only saw this movie out of the whole Tremors series,
Yeah.
they would think we were insane for liking it.
Yeah. Well, ever since basically Bloodlines, when Universal took over, it went down, and they tried pushing a little too much into it to make it way too Hollywood-esque. But I do like the fact that majority of the characters were actually pretty well thought out. Will say they definitely put a little too much of like the people in there. It should be monster hunting and monsters killing.
Yeah.
Like you got to have the right amount of schlock. That's what made A Cold Day in Hell of the three after Universal took full control of it. I think the best of the ones. It still has its issues, but it's got enough schlock and it's fun enough. Like there's not a huge romance story in there or anything about all the other stuff. It's trying to save Bert, but also killing graboids.
Again, they could have done away with that whole trying to save Bert plot line.
Yes, and we agree on that. That's why, like I said, this is a lot of the stuff that it seems like they were taking bits and pieces from the plots from the plausible TV show and then just going on with it.
Well, I mean, it's Tremors meets The Most Dangerous Game meets Jurassic Park. So you
Basically.
got
all the shitty
Graboid
parts.
Hunts becomes Shriekers on Isla Nublar. I mean, that's what you got.
That's exactly what it is. With just a little bit of Jaws thrown in.
Oh, they've been doing that since the TV show. Where basically the one person gets drug away, but they're still partly out of the ground.
Yeah.
And not saying that to be super critical of it. I mean, it as far as it goes, I mean, there are strong Tremors movies, there are weak Tremors movies, but pretty much all Tremors movies are fun.
Yeah, if it's done right, like I shouldn't say if it's done right. It is that whole thing that falls. It's not quite there to where, like how the Godzilla movies are, or are supposed to be. That, you know, because there still has to be the interpersonal thing because it's people versus graboids in this one.
Mm-hmm.
When in Godzilla movies, it's typically supposed to be
These monsters
Godzilla.
fight.
Well, it's either Godzilla fighting other monsters or Godzilla destroying the city.
Well, Graboids fall a little shy of kaijus, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel
And by a
like-
little, we mean by like 300 feet.
If I had to choose between fighting the two, I'd rather fight the graboid.
Yeah.
Like small arms does have some sort of effect. Like basic gunfire does have some sort of effect on the graboid. You shoot Godzilla with a gun, he's gonna look at you and
He ain't even going to look at you because Godzilla's not even going to realize he got shot.
yeah, pretty
you
much.
could shoot him in the eye.
Yeah, but that's not gonna work. You know that.
Yeah.
You'll put your eye out.
You'll put his eye out, kid.
I will say for having the one character that did the chick that was part of the research crew or whatever that did have the side of her head shaved, the fact that she had no lines absolutely surprised me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the one that put flowers on Bert's grave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
Normally when they have the side of the head shaved, you know, they're going to be uber manly and they don't need help and all that other
They don't
shit.
need no man.
Yeah.
But again, this movie was good. It was okay up until the last part. That last 10 minutes, they killed Bert.
I mean, it was the only way the series could really end.
Sure, I know that, but still.
Because it is just that whole thing of... Like, I don't know if they had something with Jamie Kennedy. I did like the fact they put it like, yeah, he's in a Mexican prison because he got busted trying to take mushrooms across the border. Like, that was funny.
Yeah, even though that was funny, that was still kind of stupid. Like, you could have said he was out hunt. He's on another hunt.
It makes more sense for his character, and it's also an easy way to explain why he can't get there. When the person quite literally can't leave something, it's an easier way to explain why the person can't, or it's like why the actor's not in the, or actress isn't in a movie.
Hell,
Saying that they're on another hunt, it'd be like, there's not much more dangerous than graboids. Especially in this one when it's fucking genetically engineered graboids to have a much more hunter instinct. Or, you know, stronger hunting drive.
Sure. Bert going off the grid was kind of out of fucking left field.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense considering he still had everything back in Nevada.
Yeah. Like, I can see the survivalist aspect of him doing that. Like, it makes sense. He would do something like that, but him going off the grid completely.
Yeah. Like, it'd been funnier if he'd have been like, God damn it, I just wanted to have fucking 3-week vacation for this. and you had to fucking show up.
Yeah, like that's what.
And then the fact that he didn't have any guns was absolutely retarded.
Yeah, and he's using fucking homemade spear.
Well, that would make sense for him doing that because that'd be something that he would enjoy.
Yeah, he'd like spearfishing and stuff like that, but he'd still have guns handy.
Yeah.
Again, for this one, what they could have done for Bert was like he's on vacation. That's why he's in Papua New Guinea. He's not hunting. He's spearfishing, and he has all his gear. He doesn't look like homeless, Wolverine.
Well, he'd have done that just because he it'd been part of his vacation, basically not having to follow the normal protocol. He would.
He wouldn't shave or anything. He'd just go buck wild.
If it was vacation, Bert might.
Yeah.
I do like some of the shot composition where, especially with the flamethrower scenes.
That one was good. I loved the fact they kind of went back to old school 90s filmography for a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Because for the, when was it Jimmy, I think it is. Yeah, Jimmy and Bert are fighting the Shriekers, the whole thing, and Bert's using the machetes and Jimmy's using the chainsaw. If you notice, it's always really being shown as like they're in front of the camera doing it. That was an old school thing that they used to do in the movies and TV shows for like the fighting of martial arts and whatnot. Was to like you'd show the person doing the things and you'd like switch back to the other dude looking like he's got a dodge and whatnot. But since they're fighting Shriekers, it's they were doing it that way. So that made me giggle a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, It is the return of the Shriekers. They've been missing for a couple movies, and it's nice to know that even with mad scientists getting involved in everything, the Graboids haven't lost a whole quarter of their life cycle.
Yeah.
If you include the egg. So, I mean, it brings you back to they weren't shown in the other in two movies, but that doesn't mean that they didn't exist. They just happened to catch the gap in the life cycle where it's
I think for
Graboids and ABs, and you haven't gotten any new molts yet.
Yeah, I think for those two, they just wanted to put those ones on there because then it gives you it's supposed to have that like no place of feeling safe thing.
You're hitting the ground, you're hitting the air, everything meets in the middle.
Yeah, but
middle with you.
I did like the Shrieker design for this one. I didn't look up any pictures to put in the frickin' thing that I would normally do. But yeah, just that Bill Davidson that Richard Brake plays. I think I screwed up his name originally. It's called him Blake. Just, man, that dude stole scenes. And like, him and the Burt standoff was fucking great. And then him absolutely losing his mind because he's played very level-headed characters and whatnot. Like when he played Portman in Doom, that dude was actually very level-headed. Because yes, he was in the frickin' Doom movie with the Rock and
Doom.
And
Jesus Christ.
It's Carl Urban. It's a bad movie, but it's a fun bad movie.
Yeah, Carl Urban.
Yeah, but they had a good cast, like Jackie Cruz, like basically kind of playing a survivalist chick in that whole thing. But them being researchers, the whole thing, like they kind of had the aspect of what they did in A Cold Day in Hell, but they didn't overbear on it. You know what I mean? They didn't go overboard. How like they had all that as basically you had, Jimmy, Jasmine, and Freddie were the ones throughout the whole thing. Then Anna came back from, Bill's side to extend the olive branch.
Yeah. But
I just
but,
of all of the movies, this is like the only one that didn't just never really clicked with me. Like I watched it again in spite of the fact that I had seen it before and was like, "Eh, it happened. It was there. I saw it, you know?
Yeah.
I came, I saw, I did the thing. I'm sad Bert's dead." But
I am too.
but
Yeah.
sadly, the best thing about this movie was the way that they actually dealt with that.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
luckily, it's like every character had been around him enough. And I do like the fact that it finally got out there of basically, Bert not being just considered crazy by everyone. That a lot of people like, no, like the dude's legit. And even one of them was just like
all of Bert's acolytes were on one island.
yeah, the whole thing of they celebrate a Bert Gummer Day, and I think it's funny that it's April 14th.
The day before tax day.
Yep, final day to return your taxes, even though by the end of the 5th or 6th movie, he didn't have to pay them. Like that was what made it so weird. Like, what made it, to me, would have made the story better is if they were going to do something like that, had done that, and then things got a bit out of control, and contacted Bert being like, yo, you're not going to like what we did because we did it for this reason, for people to kill these things. And they got out of control and we need your help. Because, like, this was almost like I think Shriek and Destroy.
Mm-hmm.
For that one episode where it's like they were trying to make the Shriekers into, recovery groups and whatnot for search and rescue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Only not as altruistic of
Yeah.
a reason.
Although this also could have been a really good one for, it seemed like they could have had it towards like Mixmaster would have finally affected Graboids to where it then would have affected the Shriekers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's that whole thing. There's a lot of things that could have been done, but they should have just. I don't know if Stampede is owned by Universal because they were the ones who did a lot of them after that, or before 5. They probably should have handed it over to them because just it's a watchable movie. It's not absolutely god awful.
It's just not anywhere near what it could have been.
Yeah. But it's that whole that's just bound to happen as a movie goes. I mean, not movie goes, but as a movie series goes. That's where the TV show was so surprising because when they added Mixmaster into it, it expanded upon what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like, look at Fast and the Furious. It went from, them doing like an 1/8 or quarter mile races for freaking drag racing and stealing CRT TVs to sell out of semis to now they're flying a car in space and some shit. They had Idris Elba playing basically a cyborg.
Oh,
Well,
stop.
yeah.
And one of them, like, you just keep getting more and more ridiculous. So it's like, how much can you up the ante?
That's the prop. That's
kind of the point of those.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I realize is the problem with a lot of series that go on forever and don't end or don't you have to up the ante. So
well, that's because you have to find a way to make your character. It's a common method. They have to go about making the main characters the underdog again. It's the reason why Bert didn't have any guns and that whole thing, and they had to do all this without guns and with so little of that comparatively. It's the reason why in 6 they had to save Bert and catch the grappler because it made them the underdog again. Like,
see,
I call it the Dragon Ball Z method because it's one of the main ones that does it to where the main character doesn't get weaker usually, other than Gohan, because they love to fuck that dude over.
Yeah.
But they have to keep bringing in another stronger enemy. That's why for Superman, like, it was always supposed to be the moral argument versus everything, until you would bring in the occasional thing with, like, Darkseid. Or Darkseid, or however the fuck his name is pronounced.
Darkseid.
Well, it's not spelled side. It's spelled C-E. It's like Saeed. Saed. Dark Special Ed.
Darkseid.
Stop.
Dark Sode.
Yeah. So it's
nice from the West Side.
It is just that whole thing. I mean, granted, with it would have gotten to the point to where, depending on what Bert's doing, like, he's just going to go there, and yeah, like, it really made no sense. Like, it kind of made sense for Africa. It did not make sense for Canada, for him being like, I'm going to go there with a semi-auto 308 and not bring any explosives, considering I'm going to be dealing with fucking grabloids.
All right. All right.
Well, I can kind of understand not bringing explosives with you on an international flight, but
finding a way to have explosives.
I was going to say, I would make sure you have something there.
Yeah.
Waiting for you.
See, the way to make Bert the underdog is to, again, take away his knowledge. Like, oh, y'all didn't tell me this shit, and my normal tactics don't fucking work.
Denied vital need to know information.
Exactly. Here I'm thinking I'm dealing with regular Shriekers and, graboids, but now these motherfuckers can literally flap their wings and fly instead of, gas-propelled gliding.
Well, that whole situation was having it that, the Shriekers had an audible attack, basically.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah, and it changed his he had to adapt to newer tactics. It put him on the back foot. He already know how to deal with them in general, but now, I got to deal with audio attack, sonar attacks.
Yeah,
I have to deal with a graboid that's far bigger than anything I've ever faced, that can do shit that it's not supposed to be able to do, like underwater.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be able to do that.
Well, that was the whole thing that basically he should have said to Bill as well. It'd be like, oh, they're isolated there. It's like, oh, okay, so you went through and made sure that they, there was all solid rock all the way around and underneath, so nothing could happen, because we don't know how, depending how soft the ground is and everything, you don't know how deep they're going to be able to, the graboids could actually go.
Mm-hmm.
At least until they hit bedrock.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's up, Sean?
What up, Sean? But again, putting him on the back foot doesn't mean taking away his weapons. Making him and then giving him a bunch of newbies. Like, every time he's had to deal with something new, there's always a group of people who aren't fighters, who are scientists who are encountered this. So it instantly puts him on, I have to protect these people and fight this shit. So I'm fighting with a handicap. And again, it's never been him going to a situation where, everybody's fucking armed and know how to fucking fight.
Yeah.
So that's how you keep him on the back foot at all times. And that's why the other movies are fucking awesome. Because again, he had to defeat a new enemy, or not a new enemy, but a new variant of the enemy. He had to do it with limited weapons, and he had to do it while protecting other people.
Yeah, well, that's
and who
what
are making dumb decisions.
that's why, like I've said, like so far, while I still can, now I'm kind of in a toss up because I still would have to say I'm kind of considering this movie the weakest of all of the movies, and the one right after that is going to be 5. But like 5 at least made sense in that whole thing with the bloodlines, because it's like, okay, he went to Africa, thought he had all the paperwork, but they customs is holding over on his guns, so he's pretty much got to do everything of what he can get from other people or be used by other people.
And I agree that in that one again, he's on the back foot. There's a legitimate reason why he isn't fully armed. And again, I have to protect people. I have to save lives. I have to make sure that these people get the fuck out of here and survive. And he loses people. He loses a lot of people.
The thing is, it seems like the people who they have writing for these movies, they're just not they have an idea, but they are not the biggest Tremors fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's I hate to do this again, but it's kind of like watching the new version of It, where they turn around and I don't know if they never actually, like, they just don't know how to pay attention to a whole story.
Or they take the superficial elements.
Cover it all, or what? But they literally just pick like 3 aspects of this huge story and focused on those 3, and they weren't even the strongest aspects of the story. And they tried to make a movie out of it without actually understanding the source material.
Mm-hmm. But see,
I mean, I will say this: at least, they did. One of the writers has been on like all of the Tremors movies. Yeah, like, okay, every Tremors movie. S.S. Wilson, because like he's been writing since the original Tremors movie.
Okay.
So they have one in there. That's at least how they're keeping continuity. Oh, Stampede Entertainment's from Universal, or is independent from them? Oh, that makes sense. And that whole thing.
Wow, you sound really upset about that.
Well, I'm just not that surprised, and it's more annoying than anything. Because it's that whole thing of they always want to try to shove too much shit into things that doesn't need to have that much shit shoved into it.
Phrasing.
I'm talking about a movie, not your Saturday Nights tier.
You just angry that I was looking for assholes to fuck, or I wanted to do ass.
No, I was talking about you shoving shit up your own ass.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, I want to do an asshole. That's Sunday nights.
Because it's like the same thing that happens with the Marvel movies, the DC movies, where they're like, okay, we have this thought process we're going to do for this. That's going to be this one comic series and that. But now we're going to try to take elements from 15 other comics of the same thing and then hodgepodge it in.
And God help them if it don't fucking work, which it never fucking does.
Oh, well, DC's the worst at it because they don't have good coherent writers, and typically the biggest problem is they have too many writers. Like that's what got me for the writer's strike. They're like, we want to have a minimum of this many writers, and it's like, why? Most of them are trash, and it's the whole thing of having too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's exactly the issue.
I will say, because I'm looking at a picture of freaking Richard Brake, and he's got the minigun, or he's got one of the miniguns from his company. And I always find it funny that whenever someone has that, for some odd reason, they have a bandolier of like 308 or 5.56 wrapped around them that's not going into the gun. It's like, what's the fucking point of that shit, dude? Especially the Mohawk dude that killed a couple of the Shriekers before he got downed by a Graboid. Because his are underneath clothes and whatnot, so it's like he's underneath his shamag, underneath the fucking shoulder straps, and it's like, dude, that is the worst fucking place to put those. If that's like your emergency reload gun ammo, that's the worst fucking place for it.
Look, I want to look cool.
It's tactical, not tactical.
It's tactitarded.
Indeed.
I want to look awesome. Like, why won't you let me look awesome? Oh my god, stop it.
But I'll still say, it's like, I don't think the movie was absolutely dog shit, but they could have done way better. And I'll still say I'm glad to see that John Herter grew out of his fucking Napoleon Dynamite shit, because I can't fucking stand that movie.
Wow.
Like, I know it was an MTV movie, and MTV has made better movies, I want to say, even before that. But it was bad, and I don't know why it was so popular.
Yeah, I cannot fathom on that one. A friend pressured me into watching it, and then afterwards I'm like, that's hot garbage.
I'll be honest, I didn't get it, so I didn't watch it. I spent 10 minutes, and I was like, you know what?
I had better shit to do.
I'm glad y'all liked it. I'm gonna go do something I enjoy.
It's still not the worst movie I've watched, but it's hot. It's a hot mess. That's
like a lot of the Saturday Night movie or Saturday Night Live movies. Like, I still like the Wayne's World movies, but they're a once in a blue moon sort of thing.
Are you kidding me? I like the ones, I forget what the show was called that they came from, but like I liked Strange Brew.
Oh, Strange Brew is great.
Yeah, but it was from a Canadian variety show, like Saturday Night Live. I can't remember the name of the show.
I mean, it's one of those things that you can take a skit show and turn a skit into a whole 2-hour movie type thing, but you have to have the right writers and everything. And a lot of these movies are meant to, it just seems like some of the scenes are meant to just be skits.
Like, I wouldn't want them to turn Family Guy into an actual fucking movie. Oh, and that's all it is. It's a fucking skit show. It's one loose plot connected by a whole bunch of skits. And that's the same with like Kids in the Hall, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I love the show Kids in the Hall, but I would not have wanted to watch a movie. That was based on like just one of their skits. I know they did a movie, but it was literally just like a skit show.
Like the Saturday Night Live movie, the like fucking Ladies Man and
Night at the Roxbury. Oh.
Well, I mean, technically, even the Blues Brothers, I want to say, is like based off an SNL skit. So it's like, yeah.
No, the Blues Brothers was a legitimate thing.
Yeah, but like for the Saturday Night Live ones, yeah, it's like you've got that whatever Wonder were shit. I want to say it. Fuck, he's a host of something or other.
Who?
Oh, I can't fucking remember his name, but it's like he goes into a thing and it actually turns out that it's like he's part of a mob family. Because he's been on SNL as well.
Dana Carvey?
No, not Dana Carvey. Because that would have been because he was on it's the dude. I want to say it's the dude who. Yeah, it's one of the guy. It's not the opposite of Will Ferrell in Night at the Roxbury.
Chris Kattan.
Chris Kattan.
I'm sorry. I had a big crush on Chris Kattan. Not from Night at the Roxbury. I hated Night at the Roxbury. He was in a horror movie that I really enjoyed. The House on Haunted Hill.
Lord.
Because like even I want to say like Undercover Brother could almost be considered something that came off of a fucking thing.
Yeah, that was a skit originally. A random skit in a comedy show, and they made a movie based off of that.
Well, so was Coneheads.
Yeah. SNL.
But the whole thing of Coneheads wasn't meant to be here's a skit, and now here's a skit, and now here's a skit. And that's been the biggest thing is
that was just that Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd actually just really seamlessly worked
Dan Aykroyd has comedic talent.
Worked it together. Because if you watch it, it is actually just a bunch of different skits that they did tied seamlessly together into a movie that made sense.
Yeah.
And if you are creative enough, you can do that.
I mean, like, look at freaking the first Ghostbusters movie. That was predominantly ad-libbed and pretty much kind of like skits and everything, but because of how well they were done, they did it. It was able to go well. But there are people who can go through and legitimately make a movie out of those. It's like out of the skits.
But you gotta remember two things. Bill Murray and fucking Harold Ramis were longtime partners and collaborators. They could work off each other. They did like what?
Bill Murray
together?
Yeah, but in that time frame, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis didn't like each other.
No, they were still friends. It wasn't until like I think it was after the second one that he got that divorce and they got angry at each other.
Because like one of the other because a lot of that one was written by Dan Aykroyd.
But a lot of the good lines like "chicken dogs living together."
That's because majority of that was, or a lot of that was ad-libbed. But the overall plot and everything of that was written by Ramis and Aykroyd. But what I was trying to get at, it was kind of like based off of how, if you remember that little YouTube skit that I had thrown in the one chat in Discord, that had the Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park, and they talked about how for each of their episodes they have like 3 big boards. And instead of doing like what a lot of movies do, to where it's this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and the end. They want to make sure it doesn't have the "and then this happens." It has to be this happens, therefore this happens, or this happens, but this stop. It's like, but this happens, therefore this happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's a matter of looking at it so that it has parts, but there are things that happen in each part that lead to the reason that the next part happened.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency.
Because that's how a story works.
Well, the story's kind of a bunch of sense. They make no sense.
Huh?
I said, what, the story is a bunch of scenes thrown together that make no sense?
Not at all. That is how you end up with a movie like what's this the second Jurassic World movie? That was
Uh,
literally like watching a have you guys ever played that game where I call it story around, where like one person starts a story and then you can
telephone.
hand it off to the next person? No,
Telephone.
No,
we're
it's not
completely
telephone.
different.
It's actually
Oh,
You're actually telling a story, but
It's
one
supposed to
person
be based
started
off a
it.
lot of ad lib things to or not ad lib, but like off of improv groups and whatnot, to where someone will start the story and the next person has to continue on to it. It's kind of like how they've
keep
done
it
the
going.
writing for SCPs and even what for the Lovecraft series of how a lot of that stuff was handled because Lovecraft had quite literally let other people write for specific things on that as well.
Oh, you're
So
talking
they,
about keep it going.
yeah, basically it's like they would start, it's like he started the story and from there it got expanded on by other people and then other people expanded off those people's work. It's kind of like
Well,
looking at the whole go ahead.
what happened with the second Jurassic World movie was like the one person started this story and went through and handed it off, and the next person said, "Well, I don't like your story. I'm going to tell my story."
Hmm. So kind of like how
Yeah.
they did the
kind of what happens in most movie franchises. If you have one movie out and the director lines it up for the next phase of the story,
Mhm.
but somebody else gets picked to direct the next movie, and they just kind of,
Yeah,
hey,
only
I'm
this
going to do my
happened in
own
the
thing
middle of a
instead.
movie.
Star Wars, the
So-
sequel trilogy.
Star Wars did that, and all reality, the original parts of the Marvel movies did that because when they first introduced Thanos at the end of Avengers, they had said fighting them is like fighting death. Thanos wasn't after the frickin' Infinity Stones because he thought half the universe needed to die.
He wanted to fuck death.
He wanted to court death. They had him as he was supposed to be, but instead someone's like, that doesn't make sense. We're gonna make a villain sympathetic. Fucking
You
hate
don't
that
make
shit.
you don't make a god tier being sympathetic. He's evil. That's all you need to know.
And like that's what's great about Graboids is the fact that they're indiscriminate.
Yeah.
You make noise, your food.
You could have made Thanos sympathetic and still kept him as just he was in love with death and
No, you couldn't make it.
over.
That's
That's the
no
thing is-
He's
way
in
to
love
make
with death, and she's snubbing him.
And that's the thing though, is he's not meant to be sympathetic. That's why he's called the Mad Titan.
I understand. I'm
So
just saying,
it's the
if you
whole
wanted
thing
to
of
make him sympathetic. You still didn't have to.
yes,
throw away
I agree with
his
you on that
story.
one. But the whole thing is what Tyr and I are getting at is like we're tired of seeing all of the villains have to be made sympathetic to where it's like the good guys could kind of agree with them and whatnot, and how sometimes the good guys could be just as heartless and cold as the bad guys. And it's like not every fucking movie needs the moral ambiguity and to be all fucking gray. Like I don't mind it occasionally, but sometimes, especially when you're doing like a Marvel or a superhero movie like that, you gotta do it right.
Yeah.
Well, my
Your
thing
good guys have to be good guys. Your bad guys have to be bad guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just
there
misunderstood pseudo good guys.
There are exceptions. Magneto was actually supposed to be a character like that. He
Yes.
is a bad guy.
Yes.
Well, Magneto is a bad guy, but he's a bad guy because
For different
of
reasons.
what's happened to him in his life, giving him goals to prevent. Yeah, he's a bad guy, but not because
Yeah, but
just
that's
because
the
he's a
point that
bad guy.
I'm trying to make.
All right, so
It's okay to have the sympathetic villain if the villain was created sympathetic.
all right, so
What I'm saying is I
thing-
agree with Rotn and Tyr.
well, let me tell you, the thing with
That there
Magneto
are-
is he from a certain point of view, he is in the right. Like he is still fighting for the civil. Even though he he's going about it the wrong way. His premise is still correct. We are being destroyed. We're being discriminated. We need to do something.
Yeah.
It is literally the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King argument. That's who these two characters are for the mutant world. By any means was Magneto's point of view, and it's right. He was right.
I wasn't arguing that. What I'm saying that I agree with you guys that a bad guy has to be a bad guy.
Yes.
And that it's kind of like the idea of, I have not watched the Joker movie.
It's a good movie.
I haven't watched it specifically because it flies in the face of what the Joker is.
Yep.
Which is the antithesis of Batman, which means, and it's trying to create an origin for a character that by definition cannot have an origin, because his opposite, his counterpart, is all about his origin.
Yeah, and I know there is a lot of people, and like this is where Tier and I will disagree. Well, there's honestly just the one part near the end that I actually like about the Joker movie. It's trash. It was dumb as shit.
All right,
you don't make the Joker be twice the age of Batman. That shit is fucking retarded. So the whole goddamn premise of the movie was retarded. And I know a bunch of people say, well, Joaquin Phoenix was great in it.
Joaquin Phoenix probably was great in it. Joaquin Phoenix is a phenomenal actor. And he probably ate that script up and spit out a great story. But
he did well and gave a good performance. Joker. It's just the way the movie was gone about was just bad.
All right, so do you know the origins of why that movie was made? The director pitched a story about mental health, and no one would pick it up. But he changed it to be a Joker story, and the studio picked it up. Now, if you look at it from that point of view, it's a fucking great movie. I honestly remove all the Joker aspects from it. Like, I don't even consider it part of the canon of Batman. And it stands alone if you remove all the Batman elements. It's the tale of a man gone mad, you know? And again, that's why I like it. Like, it's a trash Batman story. It really is. It's a fucking suck-ass Batman story. But remove all the Joker elements from it. If you look at it it's just some guy in a clown mask. It's a fucking great movie.
Some guy in a clown mask who's lost his mind like everybody else in the clown mask?
Clown makeup.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's how I look at it when I watch that movie. That's why I like it. It's just someone gone crazy.
Well, it's one of those things that I run into with various movies and TV shows that are based off of movie or off of books or stories, where they end up changing things that, no matter how you go about it, they start changing things that didn't need to be changed. Sometimes you got to change things for pacing between a book and a movie or a TV show, or you have to change things just because of the practical cost of a specific effect. But then you see cases where we actually changed it so that the effects that we used are dumb and significantly more expensive than the effects would have been if we'd stuck to the original source material.
Yeah.
But you end up with all these divergences from the story. You run into, I have this treatment of whether or not I can handle it. It's kind of like, okay, it's not the original story. does it make sense, or does it at least follow its own consistency to say you're basically approaching familiar characters in a alternate universe? And
Okay.
and you say, okay, it's not the original story, but the characters are recognizable, the overarching plot is recognizable. Is there enough redeeming here to go with it, or is it just a hot mess because they wanted to change the original in ways that didn't need to be changed for your standard pacing and everything? And I can understand if you're dealing with, hey, we got something that it's part of the original story and it would be cool to have, and we could even do it with special effects, but it's not going to look great and it's going to cost, the year's budget per episode.
Typically the problem with a lot of that is they want to take ones that have been major book series or whatnot, or typically if they're doing a book or even a comic book type thing, it would do better as a TV show, or as like they used to do back in the day, like a 4 or X amount part miniseries, comparatively to try to making it a movie. And the biggest problem is like, well, we're going to do that. We're going to drop this, but we want to keep this because it looks cool, but it's actually not important to the story.
Or the story they're trying to tell.
No, quite literally, because it's happened with certain Westerns and whatnot. Because I can't remember I think Val Kilmer might have had it. Like, they covered a couple of Westerns that were written by a couple of different, it's like an author and whatnot. And the director was trying to say, well, we're going to drop this part. And one of the actors who was a big fan of the books is like, no, you're not. They're like, why? He's like, because we have to do this scene. And if you leave this out, this scene makes no fucking sense. He's like, the payoff of what this scene is supposed to have is because of this point here. And if you get rid of it, it don't make no sense. Basically, it's like, and that's honestly what we need more of, in my opinion, as well, is like having someone who's there, who's a big fan of the book or big fan of the comic book and whatnot, and the directors or writers are just like, oh, well, if we can do this, they can be like, bruh, no. And smack them with a rolled up newspaper and be like, you're not doing that.
No.
It's just like, that shit bothers me. Because, like, yeah, with Tremors, you're going to have to make majority of it CGI. And, there's only so much you can do.
Agreed.
And they definitely had something they could have gone with for the genetically engineered graboids going into Shriekers. Because it still seems like since it's been all of them pretty much. The biggest thing about in the TV show has been isolation. They're isolated to a specific spot.
Well, we thought these were isolated, but the graboids got no problem island hopping, and if the Shriekers molt, they're not going to have a problem island hopping.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, like, there's so much they can do with graboids and Shriekers and whatnot. There are so many biomes left to explore, like desert, an actual fucking desert graboid.
You drop them in the middle of the Sahara.
Yeah, or graboids in the steppes. Actual mountainous graboids.
With the graboids themselves, it works better if they're like, it just works better with them being in an area where it's going to have the soft ground, which is why the isolation thing is what happens. When you start getting to that whole thing of like the mountainous, like it'd make more sense if it was they were dealing with like a couple of graboids who then molted into Shriekers, and now they're fighting Shriekers on the mountain.
That worked too.
Shriekers on the mountain.
Have, like, again, somewhere remote.
Yeah.
All right, this is how you make a good Tremors movie. First off, Bert. Always need Bert. Second off, you need a remote location and a new unique biome. That way you can have the evolutionary. Oh, this one diverged. So instead of it being it chewing through hard rock, it moves through the soft sand, like in a desert.
Yeah.
So the tactics have to change. Maybe it has camouflage. It has a lighter color skin in the desert. Maybe it's always nocturnal. Or maybe it's always I forget the opposite of nocturnal. My bad. I think it's
Diurnal?
Yeah, maybe it's diurnal, where it only moves during the day. So you have to the tactics you would use. Oh well, at night we're pretty much safe, but it's fucking cold. That's why it only hunts in the day.
Graboids will hunt it any time of the day in that whole thing.
Well, again,
you're looking to shriekers and ass blasters that are typically going to hunt at night.
Oh no, I'm just saying this is a variant of the graboid.
Because like with the graboid itself, saying that it only hunts during the day doesn't make much sense considering the fact it's underground. Now, you could say that it predominantly hunts in the day because that's when more prey tends to be active.
And the sand is softer because it's not fucking cold. Remember, deserts don't retain much heat.
Mm-hmm.
So we can always say it has a aversion to cold.
It had to be something like that. And BG's making fun of you for having a slight slip of the tongue. Instead of saying shriekers, you said streakers.
Gotta be there.
Very frequently, I try not to say anything.
But again, you that's how you give unique biome, unique variant, and then limit his ability, limit what he knows. Oh, I'm just hunting basic graboid.
Basically,
no, do this new shit.
Pretty much, it has to be Bert has to pretty much do the same thing as them, to where the grabloids or shriekers or ass blasters get smarter as time goes on. Bert needs to overcome and adapt and think of new ways to do things just like they would.
And
so it has to be who can adapt the fastest.
Yes. Rapidly evolving machine, or not machine, but rapidly evolving organism versus a human being with limited knowledge and tools.
It's gonna be Bert. It's always Bert.
Well, Bert's awesome. But that would that's how you keep making good Tremors movies.
But it is a whole thing that at some point they're gonna have to stop.
I know.
So it was that whole thing of, well, they can either turn it over to Travis, which it seemed to be the intent with how A Cold Day in Hell went, of that eventually it wouldn't be Bert having to do that. It'd be Bert playing a full mentor role.
And I can see that too. Bert is,
because that's the thing that you're going to have to do. You can't have the same character doing that. It's the reason why for Mark Harmon, who played Gibbs in NCIS, after 18 or 19 seasons, he's like, I'm just going to go back to I'm just going to go to executive producing on all the different variations of this show. Because eventually he had to step down. I mean, granted, he predominantly played a mentor role, but it's that's what you typically have to have as things go. That's where I always bring up with Dragon Ball Z, I get irritated. After the Cell Saga, it should have just been Gohan, but the fans pitched about it. Now, not American fans, since it didn't come out in America first. It came out in Japan first, obviously. There were a bunch of fucking Japanese fans who got pissed off, being like, where Goku? Why for no Goku?
That's the same thing that happened with Bleach. originally Aizen was supposed to be the final boss, and like it's supposed to end there. And nope, you can't. We want more.
No, there has been things from Kubo himself saying of how he had a lot of it planned. The problem, what the real problem was how he was trying to go for connecting the dots. He did have shit planned for the Quincy's from much earlier on, but he also basically had it set up that if it didn't get renewed after Aizen, it had an ending. And that's the way things are. See, like for this, you still have Travis can come back and be in another one and whatnot, and basically be doing things in the memory of Bert or whatnot, but it honestly wouldn't make much sense. Now, if they go through and do what they've talked about doing, to where they retcon this movie out, and honestly, the easiest way to do that would be to, have that whole thing like show the whole process of like Bert getting eaten, and then he fucking wakes up out of the fucking hammock in perfection. Like, that was one weird freaking dream.
Or you don't even have to do that. What you can do is it never fucking happened.
Oh, no. You still have it be part of it, like, but quite literally do the whole it was all a dream thing, or it's
you doused it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you've got it was all just a dream. In most cases, that's just lazy crap writing and everything, or is looking for the cheap, easy cheater way out. But it is sometimes the perfect solution, and it might be for this one.
Y'all are going to Dallas it. That is so fucked up.
Oh yeah, and Sean, for the whole thing of like them having to power up, that's because, or it's like for so long, that was a weird pacing issue, but that was also the whole fact that especially back in the day, a lot of animes had a lot of problems with keeping up with the mangas. They would go too fast. So
that's why you have filler arc.
That's why they would have filler arcs, which made things even more difficult because you have to try to adapt the filler arc into the actual thing. So plus you can only do so many chapters for things, so they had to pad for a lot of things. That's why, like, if you're gonna go back and rewatch Dragon Ball Z, it'd be better to watch Dragon Ball Z Kai, because it gets rid of a lot of the extra one stuff. It's why, like, you would see it's like that they were powering up for a thing, then all of a sudden there's a little thing of like what's happening back on Earth or whatnot, because that was a little bit of filler.
Yeah. Original Dragon Ball is like 1,000 episodes, not 1,000, maybe 900. Kai is like what? Less than half of that.
Oh yeah, and
like a third.
That's where you can also see that Goku isn't as terrible of as a father as people try to say he is. That mostly started because of how he was portrayed in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Because if you actually, okay, so we're gonna go a little weeb for a second, and since I had that whole thing going on here, and it's my show anyways, if you actually look at Dragon Ball Z, and for everyone who wants to say that Goku is a terrible father, he is not. When it comes to going up against Cell, like, yes, he knew he had to do the right thing to push his son to actually achieve, to be able to defeat Cell properly. So it was the faith that he did have in his son. And a lot of people say, well, he didn't train him how to fight. Yes, because that was Chi-Chi's wishes, and he went by and he agreed with that with his wife. She didn't want Gohan to just be a fighter like his dad. She wanted him to have intelligence. Which is why after the Cell Saga, he went back to school, because he was following what Chi-Chi had originally wished for him. And what's up, Johnny?
Yo, Hellcat.
And it did make it better that they could have had the whole thing of like, he loses a bit of strength, because that's what's happening about everything. He gets a bit weaker, then to power back up. Because hell, when he goes up against Majin Buu, if he'd have gone full ki blasts in there instead of doing just hand to hand, like he straight up kicks the shit out of Majin Buu. Like he squares up and fucks him up. It gets annoying of how some of that shit, because like Goku was a terrible father and blah blah blah, and it's just like you've watched way too much Dragon Ball Z abridged,
which I have found to be an absolute hilarious diversion as a parody and mocking everything, but you still take it and say this isn't the actual story. This is people having fun making fun of the story. Oh no, Yamcha's been Yamcha'd.
Yeah.
Oh hey, Krillin. Well, I thought one of you had been Yamcha'd by now. Oh hey, Krillin.
Krillin owned counter.
Yes.
Krillin is the strongest fucking character in that goddamn series. The strongest human alive.
Yeah, and the person who's right after him is actually Yamcha, because Chiaotzu and Tien aren't actually human.
They are.
No, they're a variant of human, but they're not full on human. And like Tien's not as strong as he should be because of who his master was back in Dragon Ball. Because he let he led him down a path of basically evilness, and that tainted of what his kind are supposed to be, which did actually weaken him quite a bit.
See, and I went through Dragon Ball, and the thing that hit me pretty quickly was just how many of Goku's friends started out as straight up villains and dislikable characters.
Yeah, because a lot of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z follows the Journey to the West thought process.
Yeah, it's literally Journey to the West in an anime form.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
All right, let's see. Yamcha's a bandit.
As a matter of fact, I can throw
Krillin always started out as a jerk to my mind, and he changed up significantly, and you get Chiaotzu and Tien, and they were their own villainous and everything. And
Piccolo was technically a villain, and that whole thing, and I know why a lot of people say that it's like Piccolo, did a lot of fathering for Gohan, but if you look at the whole fact of how Gohan was raised by Goku and Chi-Chi before the whole appearance of Raditz, it's actually Gohan who changes Piccolo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at that point, Piccolo still wanted to kill Goku.
Yep.
And because
but he realized it was a bigger threat.
Yeah, and then because of the way everything went with Gohan, he changed.
That's another one I loved in Zia Bridge. Dodge!
Yeah. Dodge!
Have you ever seen the Big Green edit?
Nope.
No.
See the Big Green edit. Because it turns Piccolo into Big Green. And that's fucking hilarious.
I will still say this, for the whole thing of like the Krillin getting owned and whatnot for like abridged, if you actually pay attention, Piccolo has lost, I want to say it's his arms a metric fuck ton.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but Namekian grows it back.
Yeah. I mean, how many
losing an arm is like losing some skin. It's okay. He'll survive.
What was
BG, that's because for a lot of the Japanese things, they follow that Eastern style of philosophy, to which is you can have someone who was born into like wealth and that and still achieves greatness, but it's looked upon even better for someone who comes from nothing or from that to where they overcome it to go into greatness of good. That's where, like, when me and Johnny and Tier were having discussion for Suikoden 4, it makes zero sense from a philosophical scale to have Laszlo be the king's son that was lost at sea. Because it takes away everything of that made it. It's like that he had gone from, you know, being an orphan to now being this great, well-respected warrior.
I still think it should have been. It should be a thing. His heritage is part of.
It should not. And I can almost guarantee you, if you 10-1 went through the actual Japanese portion of it, he is not the fucking son, because it follows an Eastern philosophy, which it's even more respectable to come from nothing to reach that greatness.
And there are tons of stories of children of leaders being, you know, destined to be leaders. And that's what that story is following. The book it is based off of, the water margins, the character he is supposed to be is a noble. And that's how I know for a fact he was meant to be a noble. Like, that particular star that he is under is the noble star.
Well, it could always be that he makes his family noble.
Nope. It is the character. The character he is based off of is a noble in the book. And every other character under that particular star has always been a noble. Not a he makes it noble. No, he is of noble blood. Thomas was noble. He was born to a noble child. He's a noble child, even though he's an orphan. Well, not an orphan, but disowned. But he's still noble. Fucking not Nash. I think it was Ophelia.
I still have to go through the rest of the other games because I've only played 4 and tactics. But it falls into a thing for, if it's going to be based off what the Eastern philosophy like that. Hell, they could still make him a noble, but they don't have to make him the fucking king's son.
He was already king's son because that's what his real name is. His name is Laszlo in Tactics.
But still, it makes absolutely no sense to make him the king's son in that whole thing, when especially the big thing was the king stepped down, so they didn't see it as him trying to take over all the islands. If it comes out that it's like, oh, actually Laszlo is his son, it's like, oh, okay, so the king stepped down for no reason. It was actually all just a ploy to get him to do that potentially. But at least it was good. He, you know, showed better to where everything wasn't just taken over.
Again,
we're gonna go away from that because that's just an argument and the whole thing. And like I said, I'm sticking with the predominancy of Eastern philosophy since it was originally based as a Japanese game.
Well, no, it's based off a Chinese book,
and the Chinese are really big into that as well. Of the whole thing of coming from, it's like, yes, yes. Look into Eastern philosophy of the whole thing, even in China, to where like one of their considered greatest generals legitimately came from nothing.
Noble birth is highly valued.
It is highly valued, but it is still also highly valued to be able to rise yourself to basically to godhood from nothing.
Like, their whole thing is like nobility. Like, when that book was written, nobility was the thing. Like, of noble birth, you are destined to be good. Like, hands down. Like, every villain in, say, the romance, most of the villainous characters are of, you know, common birth. Like, that's like that whole being a commoner is kind of like being shit when that book was written. Trust me, I read the romance, I read Water Margins, and I read Journey to the West.
So,
love you.
So there still are portions of it to where it depends on which things it was that they do appreciate that as well.
Love you, Rotn.
This is just one of those things where him and I are going to have a disagreement on it, and now we're going to move on.
Yep, moving on.
Angela's sitting there just like, oh my god!
Okay, you're both a
Mostly just
nerd.
sitting
Stop
here
fighting.
going, okay, there are a lot of words happening. I'm just gonna sit here.
Like you two are nerds. Shut the fuck up about being.
The funny part is like, here, did you go to college or no?
Yes.
We're arguing this whole shit. Tier, college student. I don't know if he has a degree. Me, nothing but a high school diploma.
That's usually how shit goes.
That's the way it goes.
God damn it, Cat. I'm petting you. What do you want? Like, stop molesting my leg.
That's okay. Mine's resorted to going back over to my office door and yelling at me to come out of my office when I'm in the living room sitting in my easy chair. So
I can't close my door because she'll just push it open.
So I think the only other way that they could go with the Tremors movie that's not going to have Burton into it is going to go into an animated movie. And it's going to have to be, at least I think it should be animated because that's going to do better for the Shriekers, Ass Blasters, or Graboids themselves. And it would either have to be a precursor to, like a prequel to Rejection, or happen somewhere else where it's isolated.
I mean, he's been fighting for 35 years. There's plenty of fertile ground to go in between a tale. You know, you can insert it between Bloodlines and X, and it would make sense if they were going to go with new characters. Like, what was that movie that they did a shit movie and they just said, fuck it, we'll go back to the beginning, and like totally ignored the movie?
Do
you have any more of what it was about?
No, it was a video game.
That description fits a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a video game. Devil May Cry. The second Devil May Cry was shit. So they went back and did the prequel, and then they just ignored two. They ignored two.
No, 2 is in between 4 and 5, if memory serves me correctly.
They ignored 2 because Dante dies.
No, he doesn't. He goes to hell.
In the end of 2?
Yeah, he goes to hell again.
But everything happened before that.
And that's because 2 was done by a different director.
Yeah, and they ignore it.
So Dante goes to hell again. Oh well.
Yeah, and I will still say this, and I know there are still people who will disagree with me on there. While the Devil May Cry anime, although they're supposed to be making a new one, looked good, was trash.
You take your whore. You shut your whore mouth.
No, and I will explain it, because Devil May Cry is about the fighting with swords and guns and the stylization of doing that. In the Devil May Cry anime, all of that was implied. Motherfucker, what? No. I want to see Dante killing demons with Ebony and Ivory and Rebellion. Don't pull this fucking shit of everything is implied or shown off. It's like, we only see a little bit of shadows. That is fucking bullshit. That is why it was trash.
Shut your whore mouth.
I am right, and you know it.
Shut up, okay? Just shut up. Shut your whore mouth.
Because that's like the remake that they've been doing
Emotional damage.
Thank you, Will.
Oh.
Say I'm wrong.
No, I'm not. But yeah, I would still say, going back to the Tremors thing, like, to do better for that, I think if they were going to do anything else, to do it animated, even if it's just full CGI, as long as they go back like to using CGI from like 8 years ago, because a lot of current CGI is trash, or they just don't fucking try. So they're the same picture.
Perhaps a bit of both.
So they're probably the same picture. But just it's that whole thing of if they were going to do it, they'd have to do it either in a thing before rejection and most likely somewhere else in the world. Which is what made it good for after the prequel movie. Which is still by far one of the best prequel movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, they did. For a prequel, they did amazingly well.
Yeah.
Most prequel movies are fucking trash. They are straight trash.
Most prequels are, well, should be direct to VHS garbage in a DVD world.
Yeah. Because, like, for this series, you know, we have Rejection, or Perfection, Mexico, Perfection, Rejection, and then the different little parts that it was where it was predominantly in and around Perfection for the TV show. You know, then we go Africa, Canada,
and Isla Nublar.
yeah, wherever the hell Isla Nublar is.
Yeah, you just
start making up shit. Making up fucking places. Well, they did.
They totally Jurassic Park did. That's just
Yeah.
Shit. You know what I would love to see? This is what I would love to see: a Tremors movie set in Australia against the emus.
That's what
Shriekers was. Well, that's what Bloodlines was supposed to be. It was basically supposed to be Burt Down Under.
him
At least someone got the understanding of it.
But
no, it's a play off of the old movie Quigley Down Under.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh my god!
Neither have I, but I.
It's got
I've
Alan
heard
Rickman
the phrase.
in it. I said it's got Alan Rickman in it.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Quigley Down Under. I saw it when I was a kid. I don't remember who was in it. I'm pretty sure it was Tom Selleck.
Yeah, I do believe so. That movie is what has made my dad. It's like it's made my dad want a fucking Sharps 50 for pretty much forever.
Goddamn Englishman.
Oh, it was during the time of the Australian Western.
What would you call that? Because you have spaghetti westerns and Italian westerns, spaghetti westerns.
Those are actually American movies.
Yeah.
Where Italians were hired to play the Mexicans and the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. That's actually, I don't know if you know who Don Amici is. By the time I was a kid, he was this great older actor. But he got his start in old spaghetti westerns playing Mexicans and Indians. But in this case, there were like 5 or 6 Australian movies that were very much just cowboy horse movies. My favorite being I'm going to call it a series, but as far as I know, there were only actually 2 movies, but it was called The Man from Snowy River.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually really good couple of movies. I really
It was? Yeah.
Yeah, BG, I will agree with like probably a lot of prequels is they basically try to change the way a story was. That's why I refuse to see Prometheus. It is absolutely asinine. The one that was that basically retconned the whole thing to where it's like, actually, the xenomorphs, they're the goo being used on humans that was already used to make humans. It's like really retarded.
Not actually the.
That just to see exactly how bad it is.
That's not actually the what's up in that particular spot, because the was more of a super weapon designed to wipe out a population, not the strange goo that made humanity in the first place. Yes, I have seen it.
Worship the goo.
That's more of what I had heard for Prometheus and that whole thing.
It's one of those, I have no delusions that I'm going to see some great, wonderful movie.
Because depending how you go, if like what the thought process was supposed to be wasn't just to make the perfect weapon. One of the thought process were because of the Alien versus Predator movies that ended up happening because of people wanting to cross over.
No, that happened because of an Easter egg. It was a dumb Easter egg.
Yeah, that was meant to be. It was meant to be a joke in the second Predator movie, and that whole thing. But people wanted that to happen anyways because that type of shit always ends up going on. But basically, what the aliens are supposed to be, or the xenomorphs, are basically a genocidal portion of the universe that pretty much is to stop specific species. It's like, if a species on a planet starts getting too big and the whole thing to where they would go out too far, it's kind of like supposed to be like God punishing in a way. And the only ones to so far get beyond to where they would legitimately hunt them is, well, predators.
All right, so as far as the movie is concerned, I know in the expanded universe and shit, but there are only 3 species, 4 if you count the progenitors, in the universe. In the Predator Alien universe, there's only 3 fucking species: humans, predators, aliens, and the progenitors. That is fucking scary.
And the progenitors actually created humans, and later they created the goo from which the aliens came, the xenomorphs. That was actually a weapon that they had intended to use against humans.
Because humans got too big.
It's humanity number 1, baby.
We're number 1!
Because humanity be humanity.
Look, when it comes to a whole bunch of these different things and everything of like humans versus aliens and all that shit, I'm always on Team Human.
Depends, because there are certain movies where Team Humans are assholes.
Yeah, but I'm still Team Human, baby.
Like, humans are essentially fucking space orcs.
In a lot of cases. But like humans versus the Graboids, I'm on Team Human.
Oh yeah, I'm on Team Human too.
Like the only time I'm really not on Team Human is like for a movie when it comes to something like that is like when Godzilla's involved, because then I'm Team Godzilla.
Always Team Godzilla.
Always.
Mothra, man.
Of course, the lady wants Mothra. Oh my god.
Giant kaiju films. Big monster. All it needs. Big monsters.
I'm Team Baragon. Fuck all y'all.
Of course, you'd be further in to know the whole thing. I don't remember all of them other than like Mechagodzilla. And Mechagodzilla can go fuck itself and go fuck a toaster.
So
Tyrell here being like, "Oh, I'm this one." You know, the next thing you know, he's gonna be
I
like,
was gonna say I have no idea what you're talking about. I know Rotn. I know Mothra. I know.
all right, I'm Team Gamera.
Gamera.
Oh, Gamera.
Gamera.
I still say Mothra. Mothra is the queen, man.
I'm just Godzilla and the whole thing. Which I still at some point need to see that animated movie of Godzilla because I actually heard that one was fucking dope.
There's an animated Godzilla movie?
Yeah,
it's
like an anime
multiple.
Godzilla.
It's in multiple parts, and it does include a Mecha Godzilla, and it is decent.
I am not gonna watch that more recent one, not the one that's coming out this year, but oh god, I can't remember what fucking Godzilla movie it's called. Give me a second. I'm gonna find a thing. Y'all can talk or something.
I feel like you're gonna hurt me.
No.
Baby, don't hurt me.
Because I'll admit, one of the first movies that I watched when the theaters opened again.
You talking about Planet of the Monsters?
King of the Monsters?
No. I'm not talking about Godzilla King of the Monsters. That series.
No. God.
There's a Japanese one that came after that. God, where is it?
No, that's not.
It's from the new one. It's like the Godzilla mutations or whatnot. So it's like it's supposed to be a Godzilla origin story.
Okay, that's
and it's
weird.
God awful. From what I've seen of it.
But I actually really enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yes, it just had too much human interaction.
I will admit that it has a lot of human.
You talking about -1?
No, because -1 comes out this year.
Oh, Godzilla Planet of the Monsters.
It's like Shen God. I think it's like Shen Godzilla or some shit.
Oh, when they go back to the fucking origins where he's a fucking
Gojira
monster.
Kaiju Wakesi. Wakusei.
Because it's a
computer animated kaiju film.
So you have Planet Monsters, a city on the edge of battle, and you have the Planet Eater. And there's Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. The fuck? All right. The premise. I'm reading the Wikipedia page. The premise. Pitting Almighty Kong and the fearsome Godzilla against a colossal undiscovered threat hidden within our world, challenging their very existence and our own. The epic new film delved further into the histories of these titans, their origins, and the mysteries of Skull Island and beyond, while uncovering the mythic battle that helped forge these incredible beings and tie them to humanity forever. The fuck?
Yeah, this is... I don't know about all that, but the last movie I saw before they closed the movie theaters before COVID was Godzilla King of the Monsters.
No,
and then
it wasn't that.
First movie I saw coming back after they reopened the movie theaters was Godzilla vs. Kong.
And it wasn't that one.
Yeah, that actually is Godzilla 1, Godzilla 2, and I think there's Godzilla 3. So you got Planet of the Monsters, City on the Edge of Battle, and what's the 3? The Planet Eater.
Okay, so it is Shin Godzilla that was done in 2016. And near the end, it doesn't, like, Godzilla looks more like Godzilla. But apparently there is half the movie is briefings.
God, no.
Because it's an all Japanese movie. And it's that whole thing is supposed to be where it's a origin story of Godzilla. And it's like of how Godzilla keeps mutating through things. Oh god, the one with Matthew Broderick was so terrible.
BG, my favorite Godzilla was the Godzilla cartoon they had when I was a kid.
Godzuki.
Yep, with Godzuki. Yep.
Of course, you would like that one.
Kid didn't.
I mean, that was way before my time, but I like the cartoon version of 2000 Godzilla. That cartoon they had afterwards, and I wish there were some foes they would bring over to the modern Godzilla.
We've definitely devolved away from what we were originally talking about. So, any final
Well, we went
words?
from one set of giant monsters to a different set of giant monsters.
Yes.
That's true. We stayed on topic.
We went from a not kaiju to kaiju. And that whole thing. But since we are done with the Tremor series until either they make a new movie or retcon something or whatnot. So, any lasting impressions or final words on the Tremor series as a whole and not just this movie? Tier, go.
I liked it. Watch it. It's a good movie. Just skip the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the series as a whole, not just this movie.
As a whole.
Jesus, pay attention, dude.
Sorry.
Fine, we'll come back to you. Will, go.
God damn it.
It is. I mean, it's solid. It stands up. It's entertaining. You've got, for the most part, just the right amount of suspension of disbelief. You put everything into that universe, and for the most part, it all makes sense. It's entertaining. Definitely worth watching. Worth rewatching. Worth rewatching. It should make your regular cycle of, if nothing else, hey, go through it every few years. Very entertaining. 2 thumbs up. Heck, 2 toes up as well.
And then we'll say, Angela, any lasting words on it? Go.
I have to agree with Will. It's one that you should watch every couple or few years. Turn around and make sure you have plenty of popcorn on hand, because they are definitely a bunch of popcorn flicks. And just a general good time. Do not expect some cinematic masterpiece. It is definitely not Oscar bait.
No.
But it is a fun time.
And that's it?
Yes.
I'm just making sure I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yes, it's fine.
Tier, now, go.
Again, I'm agree with Will. Definitely watch them. Definitely own them. They're cheap. They're fucking amazing. Get the TV show, because I believe the TV show should have been where the fucking movies afterwards went off. But hey, just me.
Oh, I will agree with that one, because the TV show definitely did put it up there, and it did give Bert what he needed, which was a partner to do these things with. And Jamie Kennedy did not do bad. I think I think that making him his son was kind of dumb, but it wasn't terrible. But yeah, for the price of the fact that you can go on Amazon and you can probably still pick up the movies and the TV show, so it's all 7 movies, all 13 episodes of the TV show for like 25 to 30 bucks. Still, like on average, that's what you're going to pay for getting them on DVD. Totally fucking worth it. You still have the physical media, and you can always rip them to the freaking off of onto your hard drive later on, but you still own the physical discs.
Yeah, let me pull up a current. Yeah, the TV series, $9 on Amazon. The 7-disc movie collection, $15.
But on that one, it has been over an hour and a half, and I'm getting worn out, and I'm gonna go play a video game or something for a little before I go to bed to start this fucking work week. But it is November. We are done with the spooky month, and we are going into Thanksgiving. So hopefully, y'all have. Oh, we'll probably watch in Thanksgiving, like the week before.
It is plenty okay to keep the spooky vibe all year round.
Oh yes,
You don't have to.
But what I was gonna say in that whole thing is, hopefully, you still have friends and family that you can go with on this one. Or not go with, but you can, see and, not just be by yourself all the goddamn time.
What's wrong with being by myself all the time?
You don't have to be. So I will find a thing, but we are going to do Thanksgiving on the 19th. And now we just have to figure out what we want to do next week. So do we want to continue the next Nicolas Cage movie?
What is the next Nicolas Cage movie?
Nicolas Cage movie?
I don't remember.
Let's see.
So we're gonna find out. Let's go to IMDb. I don't even remember what the last one was that we watched right offhand, but I know we were
Leaving Las Vegas. I think the next one we watch is Leaving Las Vegas.
No, we watched a couple after Leaving Las Vegas.
No, that's the next one. It was we watched Kiss of Death.
Yeah, Leaving Las Vegas would be next.
And then it's the
I was
good
thinking of the other one. What was it? Honeymoon in Vegas, or the one with the flying?
Oh yeah,
Honeymoon in Vegas.
I'm sorry, I get them confused because.
We'll be doing Leaving Las Vegas next week, continuing on with the Nicolas Cage series. Then after Thanksgiving, we are going to continue it again with The Rock.
Hey!
So we will get Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery.
And then we get to my favorite Nicolas Cage movie, Con Air. Put the buddy back in the box.
I don't know if that's my favorite Nicolas Cage movie, but it is a good one.
And then after Con Air, we got Face Off.
I want to take a face.
I have to. Okay, Face Off, not a phenomenal movie, but their impressions of each other are fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting closer to one of my favorite movies in that one, if I remember it correctly, and that's Snake Eyes.
Oh, that one was really interesting.
I just remember that one mostly from my childhood and everything. I mean, granted, if we really want,
the Ant Bully, are we going to watch the Ant Bully?
The what?
He was in the Ant Bully.
When was that?
I didn't know that.
I don't even know what that is.
The cartoon.
I don't think we've watched any cartoons.
No, I'm saying at some point he was in the Ant Bully. He was a character. He was Zoc. 2606.
Yeah, that was in 2000. Yeah, that was in 2006. We're still at 95, brother.
I know. I'm just looking ahead.
Plausibly. I mean, as long as he's kind of one of the main characters, we're good.
Right.
I mean, it's Paul Giamatti. Yeah, it's him, Paul Giamatti, and he's returning with Julia Roberts. No, not returning, but yeah, he's with Julia Roberts in that one.
Meryl Streep.
The late Tomlin. Bruce Campbell.
Okay, you got my attention.
Yeah, we will do this one when it comes out and everything.
Cool.
Alston Mack. Oh, God.
Tomlin? Lovely.
But we will be doing Leaving Las Vegas, then Thanksgiving, and then The Rock. So that's for the next 3 weeks. But we're going to get out of here and hope everyone has a good one this week. Because I think, technically tomorrow is Election Day, and this Saturday is Veterans Day.
Yay. I have to do something special for you, Rodney.
No, you don't.
And if you're a veteran, Make note of the restaurants and stuff out there that have got special thank you deals.
Yeah, I always forget about most of that shit anyways, because I just don't care enough.
Oh,
But
Well, I can't treat that like if you're old enough to claim the senior discount at places. Claim it.
I'm not saying don't claim it, but I knew people that would try to like hit every restaurant that would have some deal and whatnot, and it's like, dude, I don't care enough. Like if they
too much effort,
they have a veterans discount or it's like a military discount. Before we get out of here, I'll tell one of my favorite stories about that. Before Gander Mountain went away, I had went there when I was back here on leave, still in the military, and I had picked up some stuff and whatnot. That was like a machete and some other stuff that I was going to have to be put in a kit for like hunting and camping and shit like that. And I go up to the register and I just happened to ask him. I was like, "Oh, by the way, do you guys have a military discount?" And he goes, and he like the kid like rears back like, "Oh God, I'm about to get yelled at." And he's just like, "I'm sorry, sir. No, we don't." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's no problem." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "No, I was just curious. If you have it, cool. If you, it's like, if I don't ask, I don't know if you have it. So you don't have it. I'm still going to buy the stuff." And he's like, "Yo, don't let anyone know." He's like, "But I'm going to take some money off on this one just because you were really nice. And we're going to say you did a comparison. And this is what it would cost at Cabela's." And I'm like, "You don't have to, but thank you."
That it doesn't hurt to be a decent person.
It does not.
in fact, it often leads to better consequences.
Yeah.
Not to be an asshole.
Oh yeah, and especially when it comes to retail workers, like they're just doing a job, man. Don't take it out on them.
Thank you.
But we're getting out of here. Have a good week, folks. We'll see you at some point. I got to do some other shit on this channel at some point. I still have stuff to get out. I'm gonna wait for any.
Theater.
I'm gonna wait for anything on my one Beretta until after I get the slide back. I'll be sending that shit out tomorrow. And then waiting on a new gun. Well, new used gun. But have a good one, folks. Later up.
Be a hermit or don't be a hermit, depending on your preferences.
Don't be an asshole. Unless the situation.
Don't be an asshole.
Unless the situation calls for you to actually be an asshole, then be an asshole.